This is Pharma Forum web editor Nicole Raleigh, and I am on site in Madrid for Veeva Commercial Summit 2025. And with me is Karl Goossens, who is General Manager of OpenData Europe at Veeva. Pleasure to speak with you, Karl.
Thank you for having me.
So today, Karl is going to share some key findings from Veeva's latest report, The State of Data, Analytics and AI in Commercial Biopharma, which revealed a critical industry paradox. That is to say that while AI adoption is very much accelerating, a quite shocking 89% of companies haven't scaled more than half their AI initiatives due to poor data foundations. And that report draws on insights from a survey of 116 senior life sciences leaders, I believe?
Correct.
And they were from large global enterprises in Europe, the US and Asia Pacific. And a full 85% of those respondents directly oversee their organization's commercial analytics and AI initiatives. There's a clear narrative, I think you'll agree, Karl. To innovate, I beg your pardon, to innovate, business leaders must prioritize building a robust data foundation. Furthermore, the report diagnosed 3 core data issues driving these issues: trust, speed, and consistency. So turning to you now, Karl, speaking of these rather, it would seem, poor foundations, perhaps we could begin with an overview of how fragmented, low-quality data, as reported by over, I believe, 70% of respondents, continues to limit AI's impact.
Thanks, Nicole. So maybe if I step back, if you allow me, I think there's one very positive finding in the report as well, which is that 86% of the respondents also believe that AI really will help their performance. And we were just at the Commercial Summit here in Madrid, and I spoke to many customers, and this is real. Like, everyone is working on this, and everybody is actually doing real initiatives to use this technology. Now, as you said, the data continues really to be a challenge, and there were really these 3 core issues that we heard about. So the first being really data quality. So 73% of the respondents said actually that data quality is not good enough to use an AI. And I think this actually makes also a lot of sense, because when you think, for example, a physician, right? You need to actually have quite accurate data about where they work, with whom they work, what they're doing, in order to get a meaningful insight. And if things like, for example, the place of work are wrong, the AI will not make a good recommendation about this, and then the end users will not be able to use this.
Absolutely.
The second thing was speed, and this is really actually time to insight, which is really hindered by data fragmentation, which 63% of the respondents mentioned. And what we're talking about here and what we see is there's a lot of data available, but actually only very little is used. So I spoke to somebody here at Summit, and he said he believes actually they only really use 1% of the data that they have. And the reason is the data sits in different systems. So first you need to actually go into all these systems and collect the data. And actually very often there are, with third-party data, there's access agreements to get the right to use the data. Then you need to map the data against each other, and then only you can start actually analyzing the data. And until this happens, often two months go by. I've seen this very often. And this obviously is way too slow for decision makers if they need to wait for 2 months until they get an answer. And then the third component is consistency. So we spoke about, okay, data sitting in different systems, and then the data often is not consistent. So, you know, the individual may have in one data set a different specialty as in another one, and then you don't really know, okay, what are they working on? And just an example we had with a customer, they had actually 30,000 different specialty values. So if you then want to say, okay, we want to know the doctors that treat patients in lung cancer, this is really difficult actually then to go through those 30,000 values and actually figure out who that is. And then secondly, also doing this on a global scale to do global analytics, very difficult.
30,000?
Yes,
oh
staggering number.
Terrifying number, almost, yes. So thank you for that, Karl. So I wondered now if you could explain for viewers how and why unlocking AI's full value requires unified, standardized HCP and HCO data.
Yeah. So when you think about AI, right, and specifically generative AI, it's actually what it needs is not too different to a human. It needs actually to have the information about, for example, the doctor, what they want to create an insight for. So in order to get that information, you need to connect the data to get the different sources of information. You know, like what are they doing their research on, what type of patients do they see, where do they work. And this sits all in different sources, and you need to connect the data so that then the AI can say, okay, for this doctor, we're learning, for example, where they're interested in. And it's important to have actually then standard data, reference data that connects this, because a very common thing that we're seeing as an example is that the individuals, the data about the individuals is not connectable because they don't match together.
Thank you. So moving from addressing shaky foundations, as mentioned earlier, can you also share with us some of the latest innovations helping in this respect with OpenData 2.0?
Yes, very happy to. So there's two major areas of innovation that we're focusing right now. One directly actually addresses the point about data quality. So there are 26 million individuals in open data, and this is a huge amount of individuals. And now we have actually AI to use this technology to create higher level quality data. So what we call this is actually agentic data stewardship, and it allows us actually to use the entire wealth of what is available in the public on a real-time basis to see, okay, what is happening to these individuals, where do they work, did they change the place of work, so that, for example, if they change the place of work, account teams know it and they can adjust their tactics to it. But also, higher data quality, as I mentioned, means that the AI can make better, more insightful recommendations. So this is the first area. The second area is a evolution of open data, what we call OpenData 2.0, which is three elements. So first, it's a new, simpler data model. So what we do here actually is we simplify the data model and we truly globalize this. So that means actually that you can do the same analytics across the globe and you can scale AI. And secondly, it actually interfaces directly with our software. So the data can seamlessly flow into, for example, Vault CRM. Another component of OpenData 2.0 is addressing the point about data democratization. So very often people say it's hard to access the data and see the data. So what we did is actually we built a web application, which is very similar to actually explore the data. You can think about the experience similar to when you explore LinkedIn. And this is accessible to actually any employee of our customers. So anybody can use the data and they can use it for the use cases they would like to use it. And then the third component of OpenData 2.0 is really directly addressing the need to build AI models. So what it is a direct data API, and what it does is connects to all data and analytics platforms, and it moves the data very quickly. So I mentioned, 26 million HCPs in the database. It's a huge database. And it does it really quickly so that the analytics can run in real time.
Thank you. So simplification, globalization, seamlessness, and I do like this idea of, was it agentic AI standardization?
Agentic data stewardship.
Stewardship, that was it, yes. I just wanted to hone in on that because I think that's a brilliant notion of stewardship with agentic AI. So talking about agentic AI and its data curation capabilities, Karl, can we go further into how it is specifically agentic that is what can address the issues we've been discussing, rather than AI as we've been hearing about beforehand, and now, this cusp of tomorrow?
Yeah, so I think one important aspect is, of course, that generative AI, so the new AI models, large language models, they're actually able to work on unstructured data, right? So up until a few years ago, most of the analytics in the AI models were running on structured data, which then meant, okay, you need to do a lot of data pre-processing, and it limited actually the volume of data that you could use. Now with large language models, you can actually use all the data that is there, structured or unstructured. And then secondly, you have actually agentic component. So that means actually you have different agents who take different specific tasks. So for example, when you think about data stewardship, you may want to say, for example, hey, I want to actually check every day where the doctors work. And I want to do this for all the 26 million doctors. So you can have, for example, one agent who browses through the internet like a human would actually do and goes through the internet and checks. Another agent could be actually something like the chatbots that we know from ChatGPT, Gemini, where you ask a question and they answer. And then you combine these different agents. You may have actually a third agent and is responsible for combining the answer to give you the final answer, and then provide that to a human for a final data quality check.
Thank you, Karl. So you've been giving us some insights into how Veeva is working with agentic AI, but we're obviously in Madrid at the Veeva Commercial Summit, so I was wondering if you could also attest to the insights you've been hearing on the ground here this year.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I think really the first thing really is that the industry is really moving forward with AI. So it's not only people talking about it, it's really they're doing it, and I think they are all deploying this as we speak. I think the second thing that we are seeing then as well is really they realize actually that the data needs to be correct for that, and building the data foundation is critical to do so, because if they don't do this, they can't scale AI. And then I think the third one is what we just discussed, is the data quality. So really actually honing in, they want to use more data, and that data needs to be right. So agentic data curation is really the key to that.
So more data, better quality data, curation offset.
On a global data model.
On a global data model. Thank you. So everything considered then that we've been discussing, where, in your opinion, is industry going to be in the next few years? I mean, the ambitions of AI, specifically agentic AI, is the next step super agentic?
That's a good question. I think that is something we will see, and there's a lot of debate about this. I think what we definitely see, and where I think what will accelerate is really huge benefit for patients, right? So when you look actually at the R&D side, right, there's new treatments that are being developed, and they are developed faster than it has been before, and I think this will accelerate. And when you look actually at the commercial and medical side, we now have actually the ability to really find the right treatment for the right patients. So this can benefit pharma teams, but of course also doctors can use these technologies, right? For example, helping them to diagnose the right patients. So this is overall, I think there's a lot of actually value that will come out of this for patients in the coming years. And I think actually, if you more look at the healthcare component as overall, right, we all know that cost pressures are increasing, but actually AI, I think, across healthcare will have huge impact to reduce the cost. Just think about it, right? Like the systems, again, the data systems are not connected. So actually patients, they go often to different doctors for the same procedure because they don't know about each other and they don't have the data. And of course, if you can connect this, you don't have these duplications, will reduce cost eventually.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing it back to the patients, Karl. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.